are coming to this as an AirPods version. You're asking the question everybody asks before they actually get AirPods, which is like,
Exactly.
how do they actually stay in your ears? Like, is it going to work for me? I think I may be different, even though at this point, tens of millions of people have been using the
I may
using
be different.
AirPods. So my short answer to this is like, while I understand the hesitancy, like when you first kind of see it, I will just say, like, I don't, other than just like giving you the most obvious answer, which is I don't know, like suction and friction. They figured it out though. Like there are at least for AirPods Pro, there are 3 different tips you can use. So you
Oh,
just
okay.
pick the ones that whatever your canal fits. Or the second one is if you go old school AirPods, like I don't know, they just worked. I mean, I just like, I don't want to say magic, but like they figured it all out. So I think
So
it's such a like AirPods were one of these things where like I initially saw them, I was like, I don't know, it kind of seemed gimmicky, and then I tried some ones, like they had them, like you just try it, and I was just instantly like, it's one of those things, like 10 seconds into it, I was like, oh, this is the way it should be. Like, wireless AirPods are the way. So I can't
wow.
get, I mean, my
But
five star recommendations.
what? I mean, okay, so I'm a Siri minimalist. So what do I get with the AirPods? I have Siri turned off on everything. I just don't
Yeah,
want
I
to talk to
Siri's
it.
irrelevant. I don't know.
Okay.
I think
Well,
Siri's just,
what am I getting here? I mean, I
have
my
you
my
ever
daughter.
used wireless, like a
I
full Bluetooth
Yes.
wireless?
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from. I've got some Chinese knockoffs that, they pair just fine. The audio is great. They cancel everything out. They're not noise canceling,
Mhm.
but they're they plug in my ears and I don't hear anybody. They're tap to pause and play. Um, what am I missing here? I also I don't use them for calls, but I guess I could. Um, they that's it. I just have some plain old Bluetooth earbuds that tap to listen.
Okay, and like and you're totally happy with them, then they work perfectly, everything's good. Like,
Well, they were they were a welcome to progress gift. I was happy with them once I got the progress logo off of them. But yeah, they're fine.
I don't know. I think AirPods, I mean, I guess you get the defaults lifestyle, right? It just works magically with
Yeah. Oh yeah, I get the
the Apple
Bluetooth part.
device.
I get the Bluetooth, and I get noise canceling, and I
And the
guess
noise
I
canceling.
get the
Uh-huh.
voice. Using them for calls and stuff. That seems handy because I got that in my car.
Huh?
But I actually turn that off on like my running headphones because I don't want to talk on the phone when I'm
Yeah,
running.
no, I just think it's just a great. I don't think any of the stuff about like the Siri or the Apple kind of specific things are that big a deal, right? I think it's just sort of like it just works. It pairs easily. It
Yeah.
works perfectly. And like to me, like if you've already experienced the whole I just think the wireless thing is
Oh,
just
okay. So
incredibly opening, right?
so my youngest has the Samsung knockoffs that are half the price, and he's always like he and my daughter who's got AirPods are always like he's like, why did you spend so much money on those? So there's some strong genes in there. So he's like, these are great. Why would I spend so much money? They've got USB-C. What's the problem here? So I've got both camps in my house.
I think
Um,
it's a defaults lifestyle kind of question. It's just like, I don't know, man. Like
mm,
whatever, what are you saving? Like how much money are you saving? 50
I don't
bucks, 100
know.
bucks?
I don't
Like
know. I would
it's
probably,
like,
at this point, I'll probably just buy the best ones they have, so I don't like feel any regret later.
I think I even mentioned the show, the at Costco, the
I
AirPods
don't have Costco.
were 199. Or I think they were on sale for like 199, and I think it's just
Okay,
a fantastic. That's AirPods Pro, and I think it's just a fantastic experience. Like
is
I
that is
think the
that what
sound
you
is
get?
great,
Yeah.
the pairing is great. Like I will never like AirPods are probably like, I don't know, you know, to me it's just like a mandatory kind of thing. If you listen to podcasts, you listen to lots of stuff. I just think they're just fantastic. So
Okay.
I can't say enough good things about them. So you should try.
Wow.
Although you'd be you're like a good, because you bring a little skepticism. And now who was the person that was against it in your house? Which household
My
member?
youngest. My
Your
youngest.
youngest
So yeah, all
is,
all Apple devices, but he's got the Samsung Beans or something. I don't know what they're called. Maybe that's
okay.
what he
And then
calls them.
your middle child? Who's
Yeah,
the
she's
who?
got AirPods. I don't know if they're Pro or
Okay,
Max.
and
Or
has the youngest tried it? Actually tried his sister's AirPod. Have they
yes,
actually? Okay, and still
yes,
not. And he's an
no,
Apple user as well,
yes,
and still not. Okay, well, I mean, I don't know. Well,
and he's the Apple Power user in the family. Well,
okay. Well, there's
minus
your answer.
myself,
You
but
need to
yeah.
just go grab your sons and
I mean,
get
he
your
knows
shot
how
ready.
everything works, and literally he probably wears those things like 8 hours a day, and she wears hers like 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I haven't used the other. I just think AirPods, like to me, 5 stars. I can't recommend them more highly
Yeah.
enough. So I don't know.
The Find My AirPods has come in handy many times. I
That's
must
true. All right.
admit.
Well, report back next week when you've done a
Well,
full
I'm not buying them
analysis.
until these crap out, but
All
I
right.
did just
Well,
think
in
to
3
myself,
years, when you after you, I think one thing you should always replace AirPods or any listening thing. Like as soon as there's even a hint of something going wrong, replace them immediately. It's not the kind of thing to limp along. Like, I did this with AirPods, where like eventually the batteries kind of die and like
oh yeah,
the
yeah.
sound gets low in one and something like that. It's like just immediately be like, no, this is a disposable device. You don't try to warranty it, don't try to fix it, don't try to like, especially don't try to like take it apart, like
See,
hot glue
I already
a
fixed the problem. I cleaned them.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't. I just think immediately just go get some new AirPods. So, all right. Well, I want when you actually do a test or when you actually get them, I want you to. Although I don't know, I feel like you're maybe pre-programmed to just not be impressed by them. But like I
Yeah,
don't know, man.
I never got around to getting an Apple Watch. I just I couldn't do
Well,
that
Apple
either.
Watch is fun. I really do like the Apple Watch, but the AirPods is like much more like it's like a
Yeah.
mandatory kind of thing. The
Well,
Apple Watch is
I
a
think once you
very.
have quality Bluetooth headphones, you're probably like more than halfway there, though.
I don't think so. I think the
Ah,
AirPods are significantly better as far as like sound and ease of use. But like I want you to do it, though. It sounds like
mm.
um we should almost software defined talk should almost buy your son
Oh yeah.
a set of
My
them.
son. No, they should buy it for me.
No, because your son's more objective. Be like, just tell him it's like we're gonna give them to him, right? And one you
We're
can
doing
just
this
check
for
in.
science.
Yeah, we'll check in like once a month because he'll have both, right? Give them both. He'll have both and be like, so, and then you can just do a quick check in. You can be like a month into it, see which one he's actually using, right? And then 90 days into it, we take him away from him, right? You just walk in and you take it away and we see what happens, right? And if does he
Mhm.
object? Is he upset? Does he, well, of course we give him to him if he wants them, but just to see if he like feels any, like he's like any disappointment in them leaving. Are you in? Are you in on doing that? Should we do that? Maybe we can have him come on the show and give his final review.
He wants nothing to do with the show.
Even better. He would be a perfect guest. Absolute perfect guest.
How many podcast dads are out there and their kids are like, no, just no, dad.
No doubt. So, all right. Well, we'll see. All right. Well, I look forward to that. So, all the streamers, you'll have to come in a few months, and we'll have to do it. We'll do a streaming only update of that, so people get it. All right. You ready to get going, Matt?
Oh yeah.
For real.
Yeah. I better take another bite of cereal.
Okay. Eating. That's what people came for.
Mm.
All right. You ready? Do you swallow?
Okay. I need Coach here so I can, let you two talk while I eat.
I know, and I need you to step up. Be ready, like right at kickoff, if you will, game day for you.
It's hate week. Yep.
All right. Well, today in the United States at approximately 1:20 Central Time, that'd be 2:20 Eastern Time, the United States government emergency service systems sent a text message to every cell phone in the United States. So first question, Matt, is like, do you have a U.S. number? And did you get this message in the middle of I guess for you it'd be an early morning wake up call?
No, I did not.
You did not get it. So we know.
I have a Google Voice number. And so there must be some way of knowing that it's a Google Voice number because some things won't deal with it. They'll be like, you have to use a real number.
Okay, so it maybe it's not on the official list.
No,
You didn't get it.
No, I woke up to some. some
Like,
spam on my Gmail, but not on my
that's right.
iPhone, but not that.
The good news is you didn't get the notification. The bad news is you continue to get spam asking you to sign up for a $5 discount to arbitrary retailers. Is that probably the
Mostly
what's
they
going on?
want to check on the state of my automotive warranty and see how I feel about voting for so and so in the next election. Where
Well, the
so and
reason
so is all of them.
Yeah, well, the reason I was asking is like I was wondering, like I want to know how much preparation went into running the test. Like when someone says to you, like you got to run the test. I guess it happens every 3 years where they actually test the emergency system. And not only my understanding is I didn't have a TV on at the time, but like the televisions also like kind of went over to like the special announcement kind of thing. How much preparation do you think went into running this test? Do you think they've been preparing for like I'll throw out some time frames like 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, a year. Like, what do you do when you're about to you're going to notify everyone in the United States? How much testing does that require?
Federal government, at least a year.
Like, do you think there was an
Oh
entire
yeah.
project?
No. Somebody like put it on a calendar and then it went around and around. Like, we're gonna do it this day. And you got to get so and so's approval, and it's got to go to this person, and you got to go that. And it it probably bubbled up to like the White House or something at like 6 months advance, and then they're like, okay, 90 days we'll start telling the public, and then they're like,
Mhm.
nobody paid attention 90 days,
They
and then they're
definitely
like,
I did not.
all right,
Mhm.
so we'll start telling them 2 weeks, and then and then probably about a week ago I started hearing it's coming, it showed up on like Twitter. They're like,
Right?
are they going to tell is this because I remember, like, didn't Donald Trump try to use it to like tell people to vote for him on election day or something?
Did it? I hope not. That seems
He did.
that's
No,
an
no,
egregious.
he wanted to use it, and they told me he couldn't.
Oh
Um,
gosh. Oh my gosh. That would have been. Oh, I didn't even know this went down. This is even worse.
well, it didn't go down,
Yeah.
um, and which is probably why he lost the election.
That and that alone. Well, what
Because
do you
he
think?
didn't
Like,
get to spam everybody.
what else? I mean, because we're totally uninformed on this. Like, how many people you think were on this team? The team that made up the test team. Okay,
Oh,
let me throw out
oh.
some numbers. Like, under 5, under 10, under 20, under 50, 50 or more.
Ooh, I'm gonna go for the 20 to 50 range.
20 to 50, right? Because like, how many sign-offs do you think this required before they were like, "You're ready"? Like, because this is definitely no agile. Like, let's just do it at the end of the sprint, right? This was some serious waterfall. You probably probably what 3 different? You think Department of State, Emergency Services, maybe the military, all had to sign off that it was
I'm
happening.
guessing Homeland Security is where it bubbles up into, right?
But wouldn't you think they like the Department of Defense and like maybe
Oh,
Department of
I'm sure
Public
they.
Affairs, they
No,
all
no,
had to
no,
sign
no,
off on
no.
it, right?
This was probably brought up in a cabinet meeting. Where
Good question. Do you think it
no,
actually
they
did?
probably have some sort of like undersecretaries who like, all right, don't talk about this in front of the president. Look, our department is telling your department this is the official line, but it probably goes all the way up to just below the top level.
Okay.
Right.
And then how much do you think it cost? Because think about it, like you're sending a text message or no, I guess, I don't know. I guess a text message / phone call, like to the entire United States. So it's like you can't like, can you go to Twilio and be like, I need the entire, I need a package for the entire addressable mobile phone market in the United States. Like
you,
what will it
you
cost
go
to send
into
a
like
message?
pseudo Twilio.
Is the Twilio, but like think about the Twilio exec that has the sales exec that has the government as the client. Every 3 years, they need to send 300 million. I'm just guessing. Say 250 million messages, and they're like, I think we can do that for you. That's going to be $25 million. Like I don't know, it would be fascinating to go.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. We made it through. From what I can tell, there was no emergency. They were very clear about that. Everyone was very clear that this emergency was not a real emergency. So I think we all did it. Everyone made it through. And I look forward to our next test of this in 3 years. And if anyone actually has any of the actual background, I would just love to know. You can like pass it to me however you want. Find me in the Slack, send us an email, even just anonymously. I would love to know the details of this project. So congrats. I'm gonna call it successful because from what I can tell, I was notified. I would sign off. I'd be like, yep, works for me, and I think that's all you need. How many people have to say? Probably like 10 citizens say it works. You declare success. You don't need all 250 million people. So good work, emergency broadcast system. Now, Matt, the other thing I wanted to get your take on, because you're maybe not the most frequent traveler, but you are the
No,
traveler who
Cote's got it back.
I was gonna say, but
Cote's
you're the
got
one
it
that
back.
travels the furthest. And
Oh, no, sure.
I wanted to, along the same lines with the government here, the government recently, Global Entry, which we've talked about many times, they
Oh, yeah.
announced a new feature. So I think on the show before, we've talked about how at least I know I said something like it was incredible to walk up to a Global Entry, didn't even have to like sign or touch anything. It recognized me, my photo, and I immediately was sent over to customs, and it was great. Right. Well, now they have this new thing. It's called the Global Entry mobile app. And
Oh.
I was hoping you would be someone, because and the way it works is it's an app you put on your phone. And then when you get to the airport that is participating in it, and here they are, they're Seattle, Los Angeles, Miami, Orlando, Dulles,
DFW.
Pittsburgh, and Houston or George Bush Houston Intercontinental Airport. So when you get there, you don't even have to go to the kiosk. You just like, I guess this is what I mean, as I understand it, you just download the app, you hold the app up to your face, and then it just signs you in, and away you go. So you don't even have to go to the kiosk. So I was telling you pre-show, I was like, hey, I want you to try this for me, because I don't know next time I'm going to be at one of those airports. And you immediately said you're not going to do it. So explain yourself. What's going on?
Okay. First off, do you really think you need to point at your face? Don't you know they're already just tracking you?
Well, no, I'm just trying. But like, to me, my goal is just to get through border control very fast.
That's part of the
why
reason.
I think
They've already made it too easy. Literally, I walked by the kiosk. I didn't even like stand in front of it, and it's like, "Hi, Matt," and I was a little creeped out because it scanned my face before I like was still. It was like proceed to booth. So I mean, it was so fast that I was like, "Did they scan me on the plane or something?" Because I literally like.
Are
I
you
did not.
complaining about this though? Like, you think it
Well,
was
no,
too
no, no, no.
fast? Or like, what's
I'm
your
saying, I'm saying they've made. I've already given them so much. Like they've got my face, fingerprints, DNA. They obviously already know who I am. And why would I bother with the mobile app when I did not break stride going through the global entry line?
Okay, because basically there's just no reason you're saying this. Like, it
Well,
doesn't.
I
There's
mean,
no as long as there's
I've
kiosks
I've
available.
already surrendered to the NSA or whoever it is who's running those systems for them. They work great. They know who I am and they know when I come in the country. So they're already on my mobile phone. They don't need the app. I just I don't.
So
They don't need to be on my.
Is the case going to be this though? Like, so the scenario where you would do it, I guess, or let me ask you if you would do this. Okay, so you fly into this case, like
Yep.
Los Angeles is the place I think you fly
Yeah.
in, not out of fairly
Mostly.
frequently, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you get to LA, and for some reason there's a backup. There's a long line for the kiosk, right, at the thing, and so you're just standing there, and you're like, well, I could download the app and use it, or I could just wait in line. How long would the line have to be before you'd be like, I'm going to download the app and do it that way?
It would see, but see, you'd probably spend some time like setting it up, and by the time you had it set up and downloaded, and you're not supposed to have your phone out in those sections. So, by the time you have it all installed and everything, you'd probably beat the line. That's what I'm saying. It's usually so efficient that I don't see the need for the mobile app.
All right. So our feedback, not
The
until
feedback
like the
is
wait,
I have to be looking at a normal immigration line to think about it.
right?
And then I would
Probably
probably uninstall it when I leave the line
so like
afterwards.
30 minutes. Like, if it was like
Yeah.
30 minutes or longer, you'd be like, okay, let me try this app thing.
For install and uninstall. That's how like I don't.
Okay,
There's
why
already too
like,
much junk on my
do you
phone.
think they're just going to track you? Is that the thing? Is that why you
I already know
uninstall
they're
it?
tracking me. I
I
just
agree, but like,
resent.
why
I
are
just
you going to
resent
uninstall this one app though? This one
the
app is too far.
formality. I just resent the fact that they're like, look, just pretend we're not already tracking you and put this on your phone.
I like it. All right. Well, sounds like you're going to get an F for this. You're going to get an incomplete for this homework assignment, since you're not going to do it. So next, I'm going to try to assign this homework assignment to Cote. He's down for installing.
Oh
the
yeah,
app. He's got everything.
Cote is all about the defaults life cycle.
He's got everything on that phone. So we'll see. Maybe, I don't know when he's coming to the US again, but not only that, I'm going to make sure if we can make it so that he gets more points by having to go through a specific airport destination, maybe he'll do it. He'll actually reroute himself. He's like, yeah, I'm going through Pittsburgh because I had to do it. And I got some
I'm
extra
just saying,
points.
I don't really have any incentive for it. Like they've made it. I mean, congratulations to TSA. They've made it so nice.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I will
Or
say,
border
like,
control. It's
it
not
does
TSA. Yeah.
seem, it seems like the move here is just eventually they get rid of the kiosk, right? Or let's say
Yeah.
it this way, it's like they want to be able to say they have this at every airport that has global entry, without having to put kiosk at every airport, or maybe only putting one or two. And I think
Mhm.
that's where they're coming. So it's really
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
cost savings
It's
for the government. It's like,
I'm
you know,
sure, they're paying Accenture like $180,000 a kiosk or something. And
right.
and you open it up and it's like it's a Dell, right?
Yeah, it's a Dell 486 running some unpatched version of Windows 95 or something like that.
Yes.
So it's true. Okay, all right. Well, again, incomplete homework assignment for you. And we'll try to. I will try to do it. I just never. I don't have the same. They need to have it in Austin, basically, but we'll see. We'll see if that happens.
For all UK
Now,
streamers.
in other news in the semi-security world, MGM and Caesars were both attacked, cyber attacked, essentially one of those kind of ransomware things. And I don't know the details of the ransomware you can read about. I don't think it's as interesting as like the different choices that went on here. So for purposes of this, we'll just make it simple. Both of these gaming hotels or operations were essentially taken over, and no one could check in the hotels, and basically the hotels and the gambling came to a halt. And if you were here in the US, or maybe you can see them anywhere, there are lots of pictures of incredibly long lines. So the choice facing each one of them is the reported ransom that was $15 million. So if you're MGM or you're Caesars, you basically could pay 15 million to the in this case the cyber I guess hackers, right? And they would give you their if you will, the way to recover quickly, or you
Yep.
can just tough it out and fix it and give them nothing. Now, I did a poll. I have a friend that works very closely with groups of chief information security officers, or CISOs, right? So
Yep.
he's been talking to them, but I wanted to get your take. So if you're in the command center and I come to you and I say, okay, Matt, we've been hacked, it's going to take us 10 days to get back to operational,
And we're
openness.
losing 20 million a day, 40 million a
A
day.
lot, whatever. I mean, because he's losing quite a bit. So I think we can say you're losing the net. For purpose of this, let's just say it's clear you're going to lose more than 15 million in
Oh,
actually
yeah,
trying
yeah,
to
yeah,
deal
yeah.
with this
But
than
like
you
an
are
order of
actually pay it,
magnitude
right?
even.
So
Yeah.
I come to you as Chief Information Security Officer Matt, and I say, Matt, what are we going to do here? Are you going to green light the payment? Of course, there's always a little bit like if you pay, they may not do it. But in this case, it seems like they actually did. Are you going to green light the payment, or are you going to stick to your moral high ground and be like, we are not going to incent this behavior and we will not pay them. We will eat it. We will do the hard work. What do you say?
So they're probably the same insurers who do kidnap and ransom for shipping, for like
Yep.
the big
Yeah.
oil tankers. They pay the ransoms,
Yep. Well, in the
right?
case of the shipping, they have
They,
like a
they
whole
quietly
formula,
pay the ransoms,
and they have a
and that's in
formula
the
too.
policy. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
They have a
Exactly.
whole mathematical formula and a negotiator about
Exactly.
like how they get it down. So in their case, they absolutely have it figured out.
So I
So
make sure I'm familiar with our insurance policy, and I
uh-huh.
make sure that like, you know, uh I can, point to them and say, look, insurance says you pay and go. Or the insurance says, suck it up and we are on the hook for, $400 million because you're down for 2 weeks. So, that's you get to pass the buck. That's the whole beauty of insurance is it becomes someone else's, actuarial problem that is already solved for you. I mean, because yeah, I would probably pay it, but the problem is like, well, if you pay and it was fake, they just screwed you over 15 million. How did they pay these jokers?
I think it's all like Bitcoin,
Bitcoin.
some
What
type
else
of
would they
cyber,
use?
some type
They
of
send us some ape
cryptocurrency.
NFTs. Yeah, I mean, it's. I
Well, here,
think. I think.
let me throw out some different perspectives. So in the software defined talk Slack, it seemed to be everyone that sort of like got in the thread pretty much were like, you just pay it, right? Because it's just like, it's just easier and you get it back. So that was the general, and we'll say the Slack, I think, represents do you think it's fair to say like a pragmatic group of listeners, mostly
Mostly.
working in
Yeah.
ops and software development? I think that's
Yes.
generally that group of people. Now, my friend that works with the CISOs, he did like a poll because they were like doing some music group. And what do you think the CISO said before I reveal it? Like, what do you think that group said?
We couldn't possibly get hacked.
They all said it was almost 100% that they said not to pay it. Right. So, which I think is
Wow.
interesting, right? The CISOs. And I
But
was
that's
thinking,
why
like,
it's
well,
not in their hands. That's why, like I'm saying,
well,
the
that makes
insurance
sense. Like, I think
has
that's the whole
already
point. Is like,
decided.
if you're a CISO, it's like almost going against your ethos to be like,
Well,
oh, we should just
because
pay this.
you are giving up. You are saying, they've got me, they've got me. There's nothing I can do. You're saying like I have, abrogated my responsibility and the bad guys have won, pay them, and probably 30, 60 days later you're looking for a new job. But that's why it's not in your hands. Is the company's not there to let you fight. The company's there to make money.
Mhm.
And you're like, oh, I can fight this off. Well, we've got good policies in place. We'll recover in time. It's like company knows, like, no, we have this insurance because this was going to happen to all of us at some point.
So I think you bring up a good question. Like, I wonder how many people are getting fired at both these places, because one thing that's kind of interesting is they were both attacked. So different corporations, MGM and Caesars, are like different uh, uh, global corporations, and so
WSFTP both times.
you could say, well, I guess there's sort of like, I don't know, what do you call it, like the peer group. You could say, listen, like it wasn't like, I guess there's a bunch of casinos or gaming companies that we haven't said anything. So it doesn't mean they're necessarily haven't been
This,
hacked.
this
They
is
just
gonna
haven't
be
said
like
anything, right?
Ocean's 14 where they take down the whole strip.
Yeah, that's so I guess the whole I guess if I was the CISO, I'd be like, listen, hey, we take reasonable precautions. This still happened, and it even happened to our competitors who also did it. So we were sort of like an industry level, if you will, competent security. So yeah, you can fire us, but it's not like you can go hire the person at MGM or Caesars. It's like
It's
they
like
had
I
the
know
same
somebody else
issue.
is gonna be looking for a job. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I don't know. So I don't know. I guess it is interesting for the executives, the CEOs, and the business side, like how many people are, because that is true. Like if you say you're going to fire everyone, then of course you would just say, well, no, let's fight it. Like we can't do this. But I think I kind of come at it just more pragmatically. It's like I think I would have been like, you're just going to have to, you're going to pay it. I would pay it. And my thinking is that, like, sure, I don't want to incent this behavior, but just given the scope of the problem, I
Exactly.
don't think of like us like having this moral high ground of not paying it isn't going to address this issue. You know what I mean? It
No.
has to be addressed in a different way. So I don't really feel bad about that. And then two, I don't know, as an executive, if you were satisfied with what the security group had been doing as a general rule, if there wasn't like some other
You probably signed off on it. So yeah.
right. I don't know if I would be quick to fire all of the security staff and be like, this is 100% your fault. Right. Cause I don't know. I'd at least think about it more. Now, maybe this is all being naive and it's like, hey, you got to, somebody has to go down in these big situations. You have to kind of show. So you just take down
Well, hopefully they use their mafia contacts to, take care of the attackers.
well, that's the other question I do wonder. It does seem like, why, I mean, so now they got, well, one group paid, the other didn't. I was going to say, if you're seeking $30 million, it seems like you could like find, that if you're trying to, let's say, if the budget was say $10 million to go find these people, it seems like you could pay for some people to go figure it out pretty quick, right?
Well, but by then Bitcoin might not be worth it.
So, I don't know. I'm just so sympathetic to the whole thing. Like, I feel like this is why I think it's like, I often think about like, what is the hardest job? Like, what executive job would you want least? And it's like, usually it's like the VP of sales, because it's like, well, as soon as sales go down, you're definitely getting fired, right? And it's like, that always seems hard.
But
at
you
least
get some good meals, right?
you kind of have a fighting chance though, right? And you have a lot of upside. Like if things go well, you do have a tremendous amount of upside. And then like marketing, it's like, if you can show that you're generating demand, you usually can keep your job. And when you're fired, they usually are really nice about it, right? They're just like, get out, but they're not that mad. Whereas like, I think being the CISO, it's like, there's not a ton of upsides. Like you don't like
A
win.
lot of sleepless nights because it's always just a matter of time.
Yeah, you don't have like the big bonus. It's not like at the end of the year, like, oh, we weren't hacked. Let me, I'm gonna give you 300% of your salary. It's like, no, like the VP of sales gets that, but they just look at you like, oh, you just did your job. Good job. You can come back on tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then of course this happens, and then you're in the
There's no exceeding expectations in that role,
you're in the
right?
press, and yeah. So I don't know, but maybe it would have been good though if I was there. It was like, well, maybe it would be a good way for me to like not play blackjack and waste all my money when I'm in Vegas. So maybe the next time I'm going to Vegas,
or not be able to check into your hotel.
yeah, that I felt for people. It was like, because you
Yeah.
saw those long lines, and then again, it depends on why you're there. If you're there for
Well,
fun or so
you
many
know,
conferences, though, it's just like, yeah, it's got to be a nightmare.
but it would be the most memorable re:Invent ever.
That's actually true, though. Like if they had done it,
But
man,
that's
if
the
they had
thing,
done it during a
for us
tech
in our
conference.
bubble, we're
Mhm.
like, oh, they would disrupt, what if they had disrupted re:Invent? Something else was probably disrupted this week. It'd be like, you know,
Yeah, we
uh,
just don't know what it is.
yeah,
It's like
it's
we
not
just
our
don't care.
industry. So yeah,
Yeah.
so we don't
Mm.
care.
We don't care about the auto dealers convention from around the
Exactly.
world or whatever it
That
is.
has, 400,000 people there.
Well, I don't know. Well, hopefully, I think the last I read, it looks like everything's back online. And even I can't remember which one didn't pay, but the people that took 10 days looks like they're back online. So I don't know. Hopefully it all worked out. Hopefully nobody got fired yet, but I'm sure that'll come in the next few weeks. That so and so has decided to pursue other opportunities and spend time with their family. That's always the end of every blameless post. What am I trying to say? Blameless
Postmortem.
postmortem for cybersecurity. It always ends with someone deciding to spend more time with their family. So I hope that's what happened in this case.
Yeah. No.
All right, Matt. Well, another topic that's like near and dear to your, I don't know, your old job, maybe your heart. You can tell me where it is infrastructure as code. So
Yes.
infrastructure. So this week, the creator of Ansible, which is now owned by Red Hat, right? And I
Yep.
guess, and therefore IBM has officially shipped JetPorch. So I only looked at this briefly, but like, I don't know, maybe give us two things. Like, what is JetPorch? And do we need to care about this? Do we need another infrastructure as code solution?
Oh, so spicy. It I mean, it looks fine. It looks like, Ansible V2, where you're rewritten it in Rust. Um, it's got a GPL V3 license, so free forever for everyone. Um, and you know, uh, it looks very similar to what went into Ansible. It's still a push model. Um, it's got a DSL, that kind of stuff. They're hyping the fact that it's Rust, so they can do multi-threading, and it's faster and all this and that. And it's like it's one of those things when you come up with a new version of something to move people off the old one, you're gonna need to be an order of magnitude better. And I don't see this. I see this as like, the steel-plated buggy. I mean, it just doesn't I mean, maybe, hopefully for them it catches on. It seems like, Ansible has kind of just settled into being like the default that, nobody's going to do a rug pull and change the license at this point. It's fine for almost everybody. Um, it works. Most people don't have, more than a couple hundred nodes anyway. So, um, all the like top end advantages, Chef already did that. Puppet, was getting there, and they didn't have that many users, and it's kind of just a solved problem. I mean, sure,
Well,
go
maybe that's a
nuts.
good question for you, and just in general, like infrastructure as code, because there's also we had Adam Jacob, your old
Well,
on
that's what
was
I was kind of getting towards. It's
huh
like this style is it's just, it's just SSH in a for loop even faster. And and I mean, maybe I'm wrong and I missed something, but oh, we're not using SSH anymore, but so what? It's still just like great. You can, connect to 10,000 machines at a time. How many people have that many machines that aren't Kubernetes? Because that's the other thing. Like this isn't Kubernetes, and most people moving to that level of scale, the tools they have are working fine, or they've sorted out like how to make Ansible talk to that many nodes, or they're still using Chef, or something else where it's just not that big a problem where, you've compartmentalized it into smaller chunks so you don't have to connect to that many machines. Um,
But
eh,
maybe give us the lay of the land then. So if we say Jet Porch is just sort of like a faster version of the old way, right?
yeah.
And so that's sort of one approach to the kind of this infrastructure as code. Then we have the system initiative, which is like what category we put that in? Like sort of like model based,
Yeah. Oh, it's
like
absolutely.
it's like a new approach to it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's model based. It's a new way of thinking about the problem and modeling it. Where, um, I mean, this is like, Ansible and JetPorch and, um, they're more like, I'm trying to think of like better like analogies, but the thing about using a tool like, System Initiative is it's going to give you, uh, abstractions, a lot bigger abstractions, where you can say like, that EKS or I see I'm already mixing Kubernetes into the mix. That stuff over there, I can just interact with it at, through these endpoints. I don't have to think about what's happening under the covers because there's layers and layers and layers of abstractions under the covers that are, dealing with those other pieces. But, um, hopefully I'm not thinking about individual machines. And this is still very much, it feels like it's very much at the individual machine. I don't apply things to a class of, I don't say, blow this out to to a service. I'm still like blow this out to the 10,000 machines in the service. And that's you need to have abstractions hiding away more machines to be able to think about more machines. And, um, Chef and Puppet and Ansible were all just refined ways of thinking about more machines.
All right, so that's sort of so we can kind of put these in categories. Like Jet Porch would be like whatever you want the new way of doing the old thing. We'll call it mass machines, right? Or mass
Yeah, yeah,
configuration, right? If you want the new way, which is maybe unproven, you could try Systems Initiative. That's the model based way, right? And
yeah.
see if that works for you. And then what about because I also have on here that is it
Pulumi.
Plumami or
Yeah.
Plumi? Thank you. They just raised 41 million from I guess Madrona and other venture capitalists. So they seem like they also have their take on infrastructure as code.
Yeah.
So where do we put them?
Well, once you stopped thinking about individual machines and started moving into like services and higher level stuff, you started getting into the Terraform and Pulumi category where they're like, look, we're going to interact with services. We're going to call up, we're going to make calls against a SaaS. We're going to, spin up some things that aren't individual machines. And, maybe JetPorch is going to try to bridge that, territory. I just see control machine, and their graphics. So they're still kind of thinking about that. But even like Chef knew that we needed to move into those other things, not machines. And I'm sure Ansible already touches some stuff, but it's still very much, it still feels like you're treating them like individual machines. Whereas, Terraform and Pulumi, Terraform is still fairly imperative where you're like, I'm going to have these things and we're going to have an RDS instance and I'm going to configure it this way. And Pulumi is kind of like, so Terraform would be the Ansible,
Uh-huh.
very imperative, and Pulumi would be more like the Chef. That's is a programming language that can be extended. And Pulumi, like my understanding is, they're providing, SDKs for multiple languages, so you can treat, that your infrastructure as code. You can actually, just start running, code, and Node or Python or whatever language you want to write it in. Um, and so that's kind of what's happening there. And but then the kind of the chasm at the other side is you've still got Kubernetes over there that they're like, oh, we're all APIs. We're you don't talk to machines over here. You talk to our APIs and interfaces, and we'll do it for you. And so that's why like Ansible, Chef, Puppet, even Terraform, Plumi, they just they go all the way up to the edge of Kubernetes, and then they're like, now we're just making calls like everybody else. We might as well be Helm, right? And or Helm or just manifest YAML. And so that's kind of where things stop. So there's this kind of bifurcation of, these tools do one side, and I know there's helm
All right, so let's
providers.
put you on the spot then. Like, you're deep in this world. You know this world inside and out. Now, if I come to you and I'm like, hey, which one of these things should we go try and use today? Like, what would you recommend? Which one of these many products? Or how or if you want to
Well, no,
if you
because
want a little bit of a cop out, like
no, no,
how
no.
would
I'm
you
not going to
decide?
cop out. I'm not going to
How would
cop
you
out.
decide what to do?
So probably, I'm going to make the assumption we're running in a cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're running on
All right, DHH
AWS.
is out. We just lost that account, but it's okay. Go on.
Well, see, that's the thing. He's not going to use JetPorch. He wrote
Right.
his own tool.
He's
He wrote
Maersk, right? Or whatever
Maersk,
that.
right?
Yeah. So
Which
so
is
he's done. All right. We
which
lost
is
that account.
literally
I'll take
SSH
him
and
out
a
of
for
Salesforce
loop,
right now.
right?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Capistrano was the original. Hey, it's
I'm sorry. I
SSH and a for
distracted
loop.
you. You're about to give
Yeah.
us some real good insight. Go ahead. How would you make this decision? What would you tell someone to use?
I would probably go down the Open Terraform route.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Or
Okay.
sorry, Open
It's
Tuna, or
tofu.
what?
Open
Tofu.
tofu
Yes,
route. Okay.
I would probably head down that route. I was never like crazy about Terraform, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody gets it. Everybody understands it. For all of its warts and wrinkles, it was a known quantity, and um, and you could probably find people to work on it.
All right. So let me say it back. So that would be the imperative, right? Is that
Yeah,
is that
yeah, yeah. So
that's the
setting
imperative
up my
style?
machines. So I'm
Uh-huh.
saying, like, let's say I'm running a SaaS, and some of it's going to be cloud services, most of it's going to be on Kubernetes, but we're going to have some stuff that's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so probably I'm running this, this hybrid, the hybrid cloud SaaS infrastructure, where hybrid is not on-prem, it's a hybrid of Kubernetes and traditional infrastructure, which is kind of what a lot of shops are getting into. Is they're like, well, we're going to try to put things on Kubernetes except for those things, and
Mm-hmm.
KubeVirt will slowly eat into that. But I think I would probably head down that path because, congratulations, Hashi, you've now ruined me on all commercial open source. Like, you like I take that back. I would do the deepest of dives on Pulumi,
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that I would not be susceptible to a rug pull.
Uh-huh.
But I still feel that there's a barrier to entry on Pulumi, that the same one we had with Chef. Like, people are intimidated by the code part of infrastructure as code, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I'm not a developer. I'll just do horrible things with YAML or JSON or HCL," and you know whereas the code would have been nicer, it would have been easier to understand by people who took the time to do it right. And so, um you know Pulumi, I hope you're not setting us all up for the eventual rug pull, but they did just give you $45 million or something to make a lot of money, which is why I would hedge my bets, and I'd go with open tofu.
All right. So you like the fact it's open source. That's obviously your number one.
Well,
And you
you're
like the
invested
imperative
in it.
style, right?
It's the core of
Yeah.
everything you do, and you can't afford to have somebody jerking your chain.
Yeah. Well, I guess the question there, and there's been a bunch of interviews with the people starting. It's like, well, it seems out of the gate. Oh, I don't think they're just calling it tofu. So I don't know if it's open tofu or tofu. I think you can say either, but whatever. It did seem like a lot of people were supporting it, but we'll have to check back. This is one of these things we have to check back in 6 months and be like, I know. Like, resistance is always exciting at the beginning. Like, you rally a big crowd, but then suddenly, everyone can kind of
Well,
trail off and not care.
I've already seen people, like, circumventing Terraform. Like, they've already, like, they've poisoned that well, and it's
Mhm.
people are like pointing at it, being like, "Don't drink that," right? And Pulumi's trying to capture that momentum, but if I don't have to think different, I can just grab something that I'm sure open tofu works fine, right? I'm sure, like, today it's compatible, 100% compatible probably, and I'm willing to stick with the well-known thing, because my business is not infrastructure as code. My business is my business.
Yeah, makes sense. So, all right, well, good. I think everyone appreciates that. So everyone should report back in when they start using tofu. And if you don't like it, you should just email Matt directly. Matt hates.
My consulting rates are surprisingly low.
Now, Matt, another thing that kind of popped up in the old like open source versus proprietary software was a name I have not heard in a long time. That being Bugzilla. So we used to use Bugzilla way back in the day when we first started working together. Like wow, in the aughts, I guess it was. So and actually, I like Bugzilla. I think it's always been I don't never no issues with it. But I guess officially Red Hat quote bins Bugzilla for RHEL and is now using Jira. So I don't know. You felt like you had some thoughts on this. What's your take?
I, you know, I think Jira does not get a lot of love. And so there's kind of two things. First off, there used to be a cadre of folks at Red Hat who were like open source everything forever.
Mhm.
And that meant like when salespeople showed up, they tried to hand them, a RHEL desktop.
Right.
Which, a friend of mine used to work in sales at Red Hat. And the stories he would tell is like they would do that, and like every salesperson to a T, threatened to quit on day one.
Right. So this would be
Um,
like you get open office and then back in the
yeah,
day, you got like all the stuff that was like
no.
very difficult to use for
Yes, the
normal people.
salespeople at RHEL were the first to get, Windows or Mac OS if that was their preference.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that continues. And then, continuing with that resistance, um, Red Hat had tried to do like an in-house CRM,
Mhm.
and that did not go well. So they got a Salesforce license, which also didn't get well because they still wanted to like, you know, bend it to their open source will and work around getting too embedded in the product. And so they built a lot of scaffolding around it. And so, according to my friend, there was an audit, many years ago of Red Hat's Salesforce implementation that put them in the bottom 6% of all implementations of Salesforce.
I don't
Where
know. I still think I know you said that, but I almost feel like that's like I'd be like, we're winning. Like if we're low on the you're like yeah, like do you want to be high in the Salesforce?
but that was the problem. The problem
Uh,
for the salespeople was they couldn't close deals because of the software.
right, it's just impossible to use
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean they had like made it so terrible. So that's a circuitous way of getting around to. Well, Jira is susceptible to many of the things that people are complain about Salesforce, right? It's
Mhm.
easy to customize, maybe too easy. Every Jira becomes a little bit, you know, special in its own ways, and then when you upgrade it, it breaks because you made some changes. Um, and so the solution, of course, was like, oh well, we'll just host it all for you. But um, I think Jira is the default lifestyle of bug tracking, but it just doesn't have a good reputation.
But
And I'm not saying there's
does
better
anything
things
have a
out there.
I was gonna say,
No,
does
that that
anything
that's that
it's
that's
like bug
kind of
tracking in general is just a painful like
well.
it
I mean,
feels like Jira feels like a little defaults lifestyle. It's like I think this is kind of what
I
everyone
mean,
else is using,
maybe
right?
GitHub issues, are the
Yeah.
default lifestyle, but they're too hard to manage. I mean, that's anecdotally, it's and I'm sure like, product managers at GitHub are hearing this and they're like, well, we're working on it. You're not aware of this, this, and that. And the problem is like, yeah, I'm not because, engineering switched over to Jira because that's what everybody knew. And they're not happy about it either, but at least they know it. Right. And so, like, I'm sure, revisiting this and, 2 years or something, GitHub, will be fine for issue tracking. Maybe that's not where you want to put, your crown jewels if you are, a potential competitor at some point. I don't, I'm just saying like there's still a lot of resistance to putting everything in GitHub, even though everything's in GitHub. Um, and so, I'm sure, you know, like there, I don't think there's a rel on GitHub that I can open issues against. I have to go find, their public facing Jira. But anyway, long story short is I guess there wasn't a better choice. Uh, Jira probably better than Bugzilla at this point. I'm a little surprised, but not surprised. I mean, it's not Red Hat anymore; it's IBM, and they
I don't, do
probably
you think it's important? Do you think like as an open source company using open source software? Like I remember when we were back in Zenos, that was at one point and a much smaller scale. We kind of had a lot of these conversations. People we were using like Sugar CRM. we were
Yeah.
using. All these open source tools.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. My experience was like, this is just all a waste of time. Like you just have to pick the thing that works the best for your situation. And like, I don't know. That was even when we were and we were trying to embrace all that. I just even at that moment, I was like, this is just we're having too many conversations about this. Like you're kind of, I don't know, but you're kind of in a similar situation now. You're obviously, working on
No,
open
no,
source
no, no. I
products.
mean,
Like what do you got? What is your how does your company make decisions now?
the business is a business, right? You
Yeah.
don't we're like, you know, uh yeah, I mean, KubeCost, they've got open cost. They're very happy about, the work being done in the open source, but like the rest of it is business. Um, their Salesforce, HubSpot, their, all the enterprise corporate tools that you would expect. There's no open source, ethos. Uh, it's, we're here to get work done, and we're going to use the best tool. A lot of times the best tool for engineering is open source because they're going to need to get under the covers and kick things and fix them. So, engineers aren't going to call for Oracle anymore, right? They're going to call for Postgres or, MySQL
Right.
or Duck or, something open source, because they're going to want, to get their hands on the engine. That said, sales, marketing, everyone else, they don't care. They know that like Salesforce is going to need a Salesforce engineer, who, that engineer isn't getting into the guts of it. They're tailoring it to their experience, which is, somebody in product is probably spending some time kicking, Jira into the shape they want to get the workflows they want or expect. Or when they did their, bake off, they're like, this is the closest to how I think without having to do work, which is actually what usually wins the bake off. Is I don't want to do any more work. What tailors the workflow that I want to do?
Yeah. What gets me to done fastest, right? Is really
Yes,
what it comes
yeah,
down
and
to. So
pro tip for sales, sales engineers everywhere. That's what everybody wants. Nobody wants to, nobody wants to be shown, you know, a list of ingredients and saying, "Oh, you can bake anything you want." They want to know, like, boom, here's your cake. You're gonna
yeah.
get it as fast as possible.
Well, I guess whoever filed the last bug in Bugzilla at Red Hat, which I guess was to shut down Bugzilla. I guess that would be the last open issue.
Oh,
Hopefully that.
knowing Bugzilla though, there's probably like thousands of them open.
Yeah, there is. There definitely are thousands of bugs
Like,
still open. So I don't
just
know, but it'll
close them
be.
all, won't fix, and move on.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the way this article was written was more like, oh, Red Hat moves off the chair. But I don't know. To me, it seems like no big deal. Like, yeah, if that works for
Yeah,
you,
I
great.
I
Like,
I mean,
it's
I
fine.
know, like, there were Red Hat purists back in the day. I'm sure some of them still exist. I'm sure somebody is, frantically working on a reskin of Bugzilla to re-entrench into this, or maybe the fine folks at Rocky or Alma are carrying the torch. But um, I this is one of those blurry lines where it's like, if engineering, if it's not in engineering's way, it's probably not going to be open source,
Yeah, no, I think that's a
or
good
it
way to
doesn't
think of
have
it.
to be open source.
Yeah.
That
Well,
that's
it's just gonna
that's
matter a lot less. I mean, just the users, if you will, the stakeholders just care a lot less about it. So
yeah.
that all makes sense.
They don't have room for purity. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, let's final thing here. We'll check in this week. Work from home. I like the work from home saga continues. But this week, I think Cote actually posted this is a pretty good blog post that dives into some specific metrics that are basically saying that there's more efficiency, right, for those that work at home. And I think I was just been thinking about this a little bit, kind of at the higher level. It's like, of course, everyone has their own opinion about what's better, but assuming these studies are correct, one of my thoughts was like, well, hey, this is how you compete with really, really large companies that have like work from home policies that are very rigid, right? So it's like, if there truly is an efficiency gain, then if you're starting a company and you want to compete with the AWS, Microsoft, Google's, Facebook, et cetera, then you're kind of like you have the advantage, right? Because those cultures, at least as they've kind of stated, they want you to be in the office. So I thought that was kind of interesting, kind of thought around it. And then this other part I thought was really, really interesting. And I think this is kind of the bigger shift that I would welcome to happen in the industry. And here's the quote. It says, management, for example, is shifting from input metrics, do you show up, to output metrics, did the work get done? Designing and validating new metrics takes time, but these changes are helping to increase the benefits of work from home. And I was just thinking to myself, like, if you're starting a company today and you don't have like the massive infrastructure of like whatever you want to call it, and management by objectives, OKRs, right? The whole system where like, you kind of have to put in all your goals and then the whole review process. If you really put in the time to like design from the beginning, this is the outputs I'm looking at. And I'm going to couple that with a liberal work from home policy. And I'm going to kind of manage to those metrics. Like it seems like this is a place where like maybe the next generation of companies, right? Like if those that embrace it could potentially have significant advantages against like the old guard, if you will. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. And I think with all this stuff, I guess I kind of come back to it's very hard to like prove anything. Like even this study, like it seems like it's pretty, well done, and academic and stuff like that. But like in the end of the day, it's always hard when someone says, well, the group is 10% more effective. It's just like, I don't know. Like, I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure like how to measure my own personal productivity.
Exactly.
Am I 10% more effective today, tomorrow in an office? I don't know. I don't even know like how to measure my own effectiveness, much less a whole group of people's. But I like this idea. And I do like, and I think the thing that caught my eye there was the coupling of the two things. It's like, no, the output metrics is really the key. And I think most places don't do a good job at that. Most places, like you spend a lot of time talking about stuff you're going to do versus like what you want. And there's lots of reasons for that. And I think that does tie itself very much to like, well, if I'm not totally sure where I want to end up, if I just see you every day, I just kind of feel better that you're like doing stuff, even if you're doing the wrong stuff. I think that kind of does make sense to me. And I also think the thing that jumps out at me too is just like, if you think about your own maybe personal life, when you hire vendors to do things like, fix something in your house or lawn work
Right.
or whatever, it's like most of the time, like you're not, you're just trying to figure out like how long or not how long, you're just trying to figure like how much will it cost me for you to do this task? And it's usually kind of self-evident, like the plumber comes, like the leak is gone or whatever, right? And it's like that, it sort of mirrors like the more natural conversation. And I kind of think of myself as like, man, I feel like corporations could do that much better. It's like, here, Matt, like at the end of the quarter, this is what I need, right? This is what I want from you. Now, the part that I think is dangerous with it, or the reason I think management does, is like, you're kind of really putting a lot of investment in your business model. Like if I tell you whatever your metric is, Matt, like I need you to go to so many conferences and do so many presentations or whatever. Like I've sort of kind of said that, like, I believe that input or that output of you leads to more money. Right. And I think one of the things that executives just like in general is, and I would like it too. So I'm the same way too. Is like it gives you the ability to just kind of change your mind. Be like, well, we didn't make enough money, and then you can kind of go back to the group and be like, you guys didn't do the right things. Versus like someone's asserting ahead of time, right? Like these are the right things, and it's going to lead to the outcome I want. And I think maybe that's like why it doesn't happen, right? Is that like it's kind of assuming the executives kind of know the outputs that will lead to more revenue, which is a hard job. But this is where I always come back to. It's like, but that's why you get the big bucks, right? That's why you get all the money. So
Well,
I don't know. I think it's
the
an
only
interesting conversation.
yeah, the only executives who know the business outcomes are sales, because they're like, well, we need to make $8 million, and you need to sell 40 accounts at $50,000 account. That what more do I need to do? That's math. Maybe my math might be off. I missed the quarter. But yeah, everyone else is like, I think this is directionally what's good for the business. And yeah.
But I think what you said there, you hit on something that's really good. It's like sales is traditionally a position that's almost always been like a work from home, kind of be out of the office kind of job.
Oh yeah.
And I think what you just hit on there is why it's very metric driven. Like everybody knows there's a quota, there's a number of accounts you have to get. And that's why you sort of just kind of like just trust the salespeople to go do it.
And
I
commuting and being at a desk doesn't change.
Right. And I think if someone were to go the next level, right, and be like, I'm going to try to define that same type of thing for every function in the company, right, then you're at a point where it's like, yeah, you are making some assumptions, right? You're like, you're kind of assuming that you know what those things are. But if you got to that point, I think it probably would be a better place to work, right? And that's the whole idea. It's like, if it's very clear to you, if you're in content marketing, I need to see this many blogs and this many white papers or whatever, right? And I think that's just where, that's like the real rub. And maybe all of this uncovers is just like the uncertainty of business is just very uncomfortable. And instead of talking about the uncertainty of business, we always end up talking about these other things like work from home or like objectives. And they're just because it feels safer. So there's something inside of all this work from home
Yeah,
conversation.
we don't actually want to measure. We don't actually want to think about how to get the results we want. We just want the bodies to be in place.
Yeah, like we just think this stuff has to be done. So it's cool. So anyway, I recommend if you're interested in this topic, read that. I think it's a blog by Marginal Revolution. It's real short, but lots of good stats in there. All right, well, Matt, we can't have an episode where it's just you and me, where we don't talk about something Coach is completely disinterested in. And this week's, it's the Raspberry Pi 5. So what's your take? It's finally here. It's out. What do we need to know about it?
I mean, essentially, it is twice as fast as the Raspberry Pi 4 on just about everything. Bandwidth, CPU, everything is faster. It's $5 more at each price point. So
Seems like
that's
it's
not.
worth it.
No, I mean, I wouldn't buy a Raspberry Pi 4. I'd buy a 5, but I'm tapped out. Like I don't need it anymore because
What do you mean? You don't need to build a new cluster? Like what's going on?
That's the problem. Is like the bottom of that market is thoroughly saturated. Like, good job, Raspberry Pi. You've sold 40 million units, something ridiculous like that, 50 million units. They've sold a tremendous number of machines to the point where they've invited a lot of competition. When the Raspberry Pi 5 showed up, it got, compared against things that have been out for a year and that are just as fast. So I'm not saying they missed their window. I'm sure they'll sell a lot of these because of, brand recognition and the like, but other stuff is kind of like shown up and it's just as good. It's had time to like season and get supported a bit. So I think I'm not going to go out and buy one. Sorry. I don't need them. I've got everything's just fine the way it is. I'm not really looking to move on to a Raspberry Pi 5 desktop. I've already got an ARM laptop. Right. I'm good. So I mean, I'm
this is
happy to see it
for the Raspberry 5 product marketing and sales
No,
people. If they've
I'm
lost
excited.
Matt Ray, I mean,
I'm excited for the market,
Mhm.
but they're not showing up as like they're not blowing the doors off anything. Keeping the price point was good, but they're not winning on really anything. Other than hey, it's going to be well supported because they've got such a tremendous user base. But other than that, it's like if I was doing a new project, I'd put them in the competition just because like let's say I was doing a big IoT fleet of devices, I definitely would put them in my mix, but they'd be in the mix against things with better specs and at the same price points. And so then it's kind of like, well, the advantages might be like, name recognition, which, counts for something when, you're counting on your suppliers to be around for a long time. But also like, maybe I wouldn't even need such a high-end model. They got to be good enough with the 4 is kind of my point. And so the 5 is like, if I tell Brandon, how fast is your laptop?
I have no idea.
You don't know. See,
I don't know.
They got good enough long
good?
enough ago that like you don't know how fast your laptop is anymore.
Well, yeah,
that's my
good.
point.
All right.
Yeah,
All right. Well, good.
That's where I am with these devices. Like
the official Matt
I don't
Ray
expect high performance. I expect I'm paying, on battery, on low power and good enough. And like that's a saturated market.
All right. Well, I think we can summarize this, but you're going to say, your official recommendation is the Raspberry Pi is fine, but really the Raspberry Pi 4 is just fine. It's just, it does your job, right?
I'd probably get a 5 because $5, why not? But I don't need them anymore. Like
but you're not rushing out for any specific reason. So,
no.
All right. Well, Raspberry Pi, like that.
Sorry, guys.
It feels like you're kind of losing out on Matt Ray. Maybe someone needs to just send him a bunch of Raspberry Pi.
But you know what I do have?
Get him some free stuff.
I've got my RISC 5 device that I can't boot. So
that's right. Make it harder. Always make it harder for Matt.
Well, I did see, that's where the tinkers, the crazy people have moved on. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, like I think we talked
it's
about
just it's a very safe device. There's nothing.
Yeah, which bores you. So like, yeah, so the RISC-V, it just does the quick reminder, everyone, RISC-V is sort of like the open source version of ARM. And I think when we talked about it, I think another episode Cote wasn't on. We talked like, well, maybe in 10 years Apple will switch to that. But I saw where Apple just signed another really long-term deal with
Oh
ARM.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
was
they're
like,
not going
well,
anywhere.
I don't know, Matt. The dream of RISC-V, it may have to wait. We may be doing this podcast in our real old age when that shift happens.
Well, but the thing is, like, nobody's going to make a ton of money except at volume, and then at volume you have to worry about licensing, and that's where Risk wins against ARM.
All right,
Which
well,
is
we'll see.
like, of course Apple doesn't care about that.
Yeah, so maybe it'll be like we didn't really talk about this week. Maybe it'll be in like these like the new like glasses and stuff that come out. Like that'll be the switch, right? They're like,
Yeah,
it turns
but
out we need
yeah,
RISC-V.
exactly. But I'm sure Apple, like, negotiated where they're not paying per chip anymore, right?
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Well, when Apple walks into ARM, they're like, you think it's a pretty one-sided conversation.
Well, they're
We've
both going to make their
decided.
money. They're both.
Yeah,
gonna
no, I
make their
agree. I
money.
think ARM is probably happy to take some huge check of like, and Apple's happy to be like, yeah, we're gonna write you this one time, and we own it forever. You can never talk to you can never say otherwise. So that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Cote is off presenting right now. And if you are interested in seeing him at a conference coming up, there October 9th, there's the Spring Tour Amsterdam. So I assume we'll be there. That will be a short commute for him. And then Matt, you're going to be over in KubeCon North America. That's November 6th through 9th. As we talked about, Matt will not be using the Global Entry app when he arrives in the United States. Cote will be at VMware Explore Barcelona, also November 6th through the 9th. And then I think we've got our friends at that conference. That's actually coming up, reasonably soon. So that's January through February. So if you want to come to Round Rock, Texas, which is right outside of Austin, you should come check that one out as well. Also, we got a little bit of feedback this week. So I sent some stickers to our friend in the Netherlands. So I don't have Cote here. I was going to make him pronounce this name. I believe it's Eon. And it's spelled Loan, but I don't know. I tried to look up the Dutch pronunciation. I think that's an L. I hope that's an L, but I don't know. Maybe I got the whole thing wrong. Maybe it is an I, and that's Eon. So
it's an I.
So however I say it wrong, I probably say it, but I think it said in the pronunciation it said like 2 E. So Eon. So hopefully Eon. Hopefully you got your stickers. Hopefully I didn't say your name wrong. And if you did, you can just email me again and tell me I did it all wrong. Also, we sent some stickers to a good friend of the show, Barton George. He's going to be at KubeCon North America. He's going to be doing a bunch of interviews. So who knows? Maybe Matt Ray will do an interview with Barton there as well. Also sent some stickers to John in California. His quote was, here it is, quote, I am yet to land that software developer role, but have successfully gone from iron worker to tax accountant to business analyst. And he tells us our insight has helped him understand what he needs to make the final step to dev. So I was like, wow, that is quite the trajectory. I don't know if we know anyone that has gone from iron worker to developer. So hopefully he'll make it. And then finally, this was really
you think he's going to use Rust?
Oh, that would be great. That would be the natural. I'll email him back and say, yep, John, you have to learn Rust. That's the only kind of developer you can be. And then finally, Luke from Slack, he disagrees with Cote. He likes the little wooden forks and he uses them for chips in the UK, which of course I had to look up to double check it. Chips are fries. What we think of as French fries. What are chips what are fries in Australia?
They're chips.
I don't know. We got to get on that. We got to change that. If we go metric, they need to give up the chips. We need chips to be fries. So that's going to be on the negotiating.
I think
block.
that is a fair negotiation.
I think
everyone in the world would be happy to call them fries.
Yeah. Let's
even the Belgians.
We should put them on the list of like, okay, we've agreed to metric. Here are the changes we need from you. All right, Matt, what is your recommendation this week?
My recommendation for the week is, I heard about the search engine podcast. I had not been following the fallout of the rise and fall of Reply All, which I was a big fan. I didn't hear what had happened. Apparently PJ Vogt has a new podcast called Search Engine. There's a bunch of episodes already out, but I subscribed. And for listeners of our show, the first one you got to kick off with is, wait, should I not be drinking airline coffee?
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, so PJ Vogt, one of the hosts of I guess originally of Gimlet Media. That's where they started. I guess they started Reply All somewhere else, but it was bought by Gimlet Media, and then him and Alex, can't remember that started,
They
and
were,
I
yeah,
guess
it was a
they
spinoff of
had
On the Media.
yeah, so Avon Me exactly. Well, I think it was two. So the lineage was like I think TLDR was the
Yeah,
original
yeah, On the
podcast.
Media to TLDR
Yeah,
to
and
the
then they
plat.
started this. And so what was interesting about the whole thing is there was actually a bunch of controversy. I guess PJ Vogt was sort of, if you will, voted off the island of Gimlet Media, which was owned by Spotify, because of some like I don't know internal politics / HR issues around their union. I guess he didn't support it. So like he had a long period of like doing nothing, and then he actually had a podcast, Crypto Island. They did
I
right
didn't hear
before
that
this
one.
one. So you
Yeah.
can go back and he tells all these crazy crypto stories. And then, yeah, I've seen Search Engine is good. I would say, yeah, if you like to Reply All, it's the kind of, it's really just the kind of the same exact version of it. But what I want them to do, I actually want there to be someone to do a podcast about the, if you will, Gimlet Media being acquired, and then all the infighting that went on there, and then how all these podcasts basically ended up like leaving, because I think that would be really interesting. So it's almost like the meta podcast, like they do investigative stories about other issues. Someone needs to do the same
Well, it would have
thing
to go
to
back to
Gimlet
On the
Media.
Media.
Well,
Like,
yeah, but I mean,
you have to go
but that
back
would be the whole series.
someone's safe. Yeah.
Yeah, you would start the whole series, be like, well, they started with this podcast TLDR, and then you could go through all of the different politics, and you could tell like the real story, kind of the, because the startup podcast was really, really popular. That was where was Alex, can't remember his last name. Anyway, got acquired by Spotify.
Goldman.
But like, I actually think it's like the meta podcast. Someone going to the rise and fall of that podcast would be a great podcast for
you
me to
should
listen
work
to.
on it after you help Cote with his son book.
Yeah, like what are we doing? So okay, a couple other random things for me. My recommendation this week, simple recommendation, is we just got this Anchor MagSafe battery. I think it's pretty good. My family's gonna be traveling, so I set them up with it. So it's just very simple. You just like put it on as a magnet. It seems like nothing can go wrong with it. So I think it's going to be real simple, and I think it's a great way to do the battery. But I did want to ask you, Matt. We'll have a quick side conversation here. Is I assume at this point, have any of your children had orthodontics, braces of any kind at this point? All right. So my son just got to the age, and we just went through the whole process. So long story short is I was like really blown away with like, wow, braces and orthodontics have changed quite a bit since I've been involved. Right. And so they sent him home with this thing. So they put on his braces. In itself was an interesting process, because they take the mold and it's everything kind of comes very custom, which was interesting. But the thought that really caught my eye was there's an app called Dental Monitoring. So they basically showed him how to use it. And so what you do is, you hook it up to your iPhone, and it has this crazy looking, like, I don't know what to describe it. It's like a reverse mouth guard. And you take a picture like every month or every 2 weeks. He goes through and he uses the phone and he takes a picture of I guess 3 pictures that it kind of guides you through, and it uploads all the photos of your progress to the doctor, and the doctor basically can do a virtual check-in, right? And I thought in it myself, I was like, wow, it's incredibly well done. Like the way the app works and the way that it actually takes these pictures. So I thought that was phenomenal. And then the other day, because it's actually hooked up on my phone, because I'm a bad parent, I won't give him a telephone. That's a subject for another day. But what it does is it actually got a note back the other day, and it said, hey, you want to see your progress? And what it does is it animates from the first time, like, so you actually are seeing the teeth move. And then how sometimes they do they'll take 2 pictures, like before and after, or like the 4K, and you can have a slider. So they have that too. They also have the slider view if you're looking at his teeth, and you can see and just slide back and forth. And I first of all, he was a little freaked out by it. He was like, whoa, because I guess it is kind of weird to see your teeth in but I was like, oh, wow, this is incredible. So I was just like blown away by the whole thing. And I thought it was great just an interesting use of digital transformation. So this was a huge, long lead up. I just wanted to ask, did any of your kids experience anything similar, or is this just a US
still
thing?
Like dark. I mean, looking at their website, I don't think it's just a US thing, because they support 7 languages. But their orthodontist did not use it. The third, my third is he's just losing the last of his baby teeth, so he'll probably be headed down that path soon. But we're probably going to try a different orthodontist because he'll probably go down the Invisalign path. Which is a slightly different path, but doesn't as far as I know, doesn't have that level of software. It does have like, the before and after videos and fun stuff, but
Well, yeah, because we went down
no
the whole
app.
pitch, and I
Yeah.
guess you're gonna get it. It's like you kind of get like when we met with us, it kind of gives you both options. You kind of pick what's right for you, and it's kind of like braces slightly faster. Once they're on, you can just you don't have to quote do anything. You don't have to remember to if you will leave it in. And it sounds like if you're really disciplined, Invisalign sounds like it works well. Our son, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
he himself would volunteer not just had the braces, but like
No.
I thought
The Samsung Beans user, he's dedicated.
he's
Like,
dedicated. Yeah, it sounds like he is. So I was gonna say, well, the thing that's really interesting there too is kind of the same digital transformation. Is like I guess once they scan your teeth, they just send you all these molds. Kind of the progression, right? Is
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
how it works. So it's
absolutely.
like, so it really is. It's pretty interesting just being in an orthodontics office. Like, wow, this is actually more like IT than it is. It's just sort of like taking models, ordering them, applying them, and then really the tech does all the work. And then you're just left with it's like the quote unquote orthodontist is just literally coming around. Like I think he had 6 chairs. Like they have like he's just literally like it's just like signing off on the work. Like, yep, everything looks good. This is good.
Yeah.
And he gives you a little advice. So really impressed. I don't know. I was just it's funny. Like you're away from something for 30 years. You're like, oh wow, things have changed quite a bit. So good luck to
Yeah.
all the people having orthodontics out there. Good luck. And if for some reason if you're looking for, I would recommend this dental monitoring thing. I think it's actually pretty interesting. So it's fun to look
Right.
at.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you made it through dental monitoring and you're still here, we thank you.
Sorry.
Most importantly. And then if it's the first time you've ever listened to us, you should just subscribe right now in the podcast player you're listening to in the moment. You can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com, subscribe to all of the social media. And if you want a sticker, all you have to do is send your postal address to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com, and I will be happy to send you a sticker anywhere in the world. And with that, we will talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
All right. Good job, Matt, as always. And to all the people watching the stream or watching the video later, we appreciate all of your time and efforts for coming on. We're probably going to move it up. We'll probably be a little bit earlier going forward because daylight savings time is working well for us.
When does it hit the US?
Not till November, but like Matt's, this is a better time for Matt, and we may probably keep maybe an hour earlier in the afternoon going forward. So if you want to check in,
So it looks like KubeCon is the week it changes.
Oh, that'll be good. That'll be one more fun thing for you.
Well, we'll probably bounce that episode.
All right. Well, we got to run, streamers. Talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.